So let's learn how to actually add tools to your agent. So a tool, at the end of the day, is just a function call. And you can actually allow your agent to decide that it should actually call a function in your code base. So let's see how that actually works. In this example, we're going to be building a simple tool call that goes out and gets the stock price and allows our agent to return the price of a stock. So it's a pretty simple example, but to get started, I'm going to create a new directory. So I'm just going to create a directory called stock agent, and I'm going to create just a package.json, and I'm going to go ahead and install Mastra core and also Zod into this project. And once this is installed, I'm going to go ahead and open it up in Cursor, and we're going to go ahead and add our environment variables. So I'll open this up. The first thing we're going to do is add an environment variable, and I'm going to need an OpenAI API key, and I would of course just drop this in, but I'm actually just going to go back here and I will just copy this file in. I'm going to go ahead and make some additional folders here. So I'm going to create a source, and I'm going to go into agents and create a stock agent file. So now I have a source agents folder. I'm also going to create a tools folder, and in that tools folder I will create a file called stock price, and at the top level I'm just going to add an index.ts file. So now I have my structure. I have source, agents, tools, and then I have some files in there. Typically what I would like to do is I'd actually like to have a Mastra folder here, but I think it's kind of nice if you've looked through some of the other guides to see a different example. So you don't have to have it in a Mastra folder. I think that's a nice convention, but it's completely optional. So it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and copy some code in here, and then we can take a look at it. And the first thing we're going to do is create our stock price. And this is just our tool. So in Mastra, we can import create tool from Mastra core. And a tool is just a function that has an input and potentially an output, has an ID, a description, and essentially a function that gets called that you can pass into an agent. And the description is very important. So the ID and description is helpful to give the agent context on when it should actually call this function. So in this case, we're creating a tool called get stock price. It fetches the last day's closing stock price. So it's not real time, but you can see what API we're using up here. And it just does a call out to this get stock price, which is just a function I defined above. And this is just going to do a fetch to this mock API that we put up, which is, you could use any stock API you wanted. This returns essentially a list of prices. We're just grabbing the closing price out of this array here. So it's a pretty simple tool call. I'm actually going to rename this. I think this should be stock prices. That makes a little more sense to me, since that's what I'm exporting. And now we have our tool call. So everything's good there. The next thing we need to do is actually create our agent. So if I go into the stock agent, I'm going to go ahead and copy in some code and we'll walk through it. And in this code, we're importing agent. We're going to import our tools here. And we're going to be exporting our stock agent. We give the agent a name. We give it a system prompt or a set of instructions. We go ahead and set our provider. And again, I already added my environment variable to the env file. And then we pass in the tools that we want to actually allow our agent to call. And so now we have our tool, we have our actual agent. Now we need to set up our Mastra instance. And this is important because it allows us to define our agents. It allows us to use dev to call out to the agents. And I'm just going to copy this in. We're just importing Mastra from Mastra core. We're going to import our stock agent from here. And we're just creating or instantiating the Mastra class and passing in our agent. So that's really all there is to that. Now we can go back to the terminal or command line, and I do have Mastra installed globally, and I can run dev. In this case, it's going to look for that source Mastra folder if I don't tell it where my Mastra instance is actually getting exported from. But I can go ahead and pass in the directory, and it's just in the source directory. So just another way to show you that it doesn't really matter where you're exporting your Mastra instance out of. You just got to tell it where it's at if you want to use dev. But by default, it'll look in src/Mastra. So this is going to be starting the server. I'm going to pull it up so we actually can take a look at it. And we can go ahead and chat with the agent. So I'm going to ask it what's the current price of Apple. And this is going to go out to the API and tell me the current price of Apple is this. So there you go. I can also, of course, post to the generate or the stream and actually use this as an API. I can use dev to quickly iterate. I can go back and forth between my code here if I was actually like wiring up tools. I can change the tools, I can change the system prompt, and then come into dev and test it out. One other nice thing I like to highlight in dev is you can actually test the tools in isolation. And this is really useful if you want to first validate that the tool works and is getting correct results before you hand it off to your agent to actually use. So you can see I actually have the stock price tool. I can give it a symbol. I can run it, and it's going to tell me the price. So I can test the tool. I know that this agent, has access to the tool. It tells it right here. And so when I call it, I can actually see that the agent's using the tool and actually giving me the results that I want. And that's it. You know how to now add tools to your agents, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.